Welcome back to the Tectonic Takes podcast. I'm your host, Ivan, with my co hosts, Devon and Abram, and also with our guest from WeAreAustin TV, Hernan. So, Hernan, we'll start with you. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing really good. I'm excited to be here. Tectonic Takes, you guys were one of the first ones that offered an olive branch to We're Austin TV and when we stepped onto the scene. For that, I'm always grateful. And this collab has been a long time coming. And as soon as my G Ivan hit me up, he was like, hey, can we make this work? I'm not gonna lie, my week has been busy, but I was like, no, you know what, man? I owe it to you. Let's get this going. Let's get this preview out there for the fans. And I'm happy to be here, bro.
Awesome. We love that mentality. And we haven't done as many guests from other teams we faced this season as we would like. It is tough juggling everyone's schedules, especially within our own camp. But whenever we have the opportunity, especially a U.S. Open Cup quarterfinal, that doesn't happen often. Particularly not for us. We'll see for Austin with a few more season sample size how much regularity happens. But yeah, it's a pretty big game, and I'm going to tee this up for Devon and Abram first because we've had a few days to process the California Clasico. Is it fair to say that this U.S. Open Cup quarterfinal, our first quarterfinal in any competition in 5 years, is this a bigger game for this season than the California Clasico at Stanford? Devon.
I would say yeah. I would say absolutely. I think there's a lot of fans have shifted their focus from the Stanford California Clasico to other games. Whether I'll let the fans kind of speak for themselves, but it seems like based off our performances since 2019, California Classicos haven't really resembled as much importance to us anymore. Plus, with the factors of MLS not really giving us the necessary hype that the California Classico deserves. I would probably say, yeah, I think other games, especially now U.S. Open Cup, especially this year, kind of resembles a higher importance now for us Quakes fans.
3 games away for both these teams as well as the other 6 teams in the competition from a trophy, so it's definitely raising the stakes. Abram, you presented a bit of a asterisk to that title with the benefit of hindsight, right?
Yeah, we were just saying before we started recording, it's hard to say that like the quarterfinal isn't a bigger game when the College Clasico is already gone. We already did it. We tied 1-1. It was like it was a disappointing result. We're very happy for it going into it, but now that it's over, we can look at it in hindsight and kind of be like, okay, that was a pretty disappointing event with all things considered. We only got a point against the worst team in the league right now, so that really sucks. And our historic rivals, it sucks. So definitely want to forget about that. To put it lightly, and then focus our energy on this Open Cup.
Yeah, so we'll turn it over to you. And then, what's it like with this U.S. Open Cup run for Austin? A lot of his experiences throughout the first 4 or 5 years of existence have been new, of course, with the short history of the club. But how much have you fans have been putting stock into this competition as a means of getting that first silverware potentially before MLS Cup contention?
No, yeah, totally, man. That's actually a really good question, and also a really good point that you make because, as everybody knows, Austin is a very young team, very young club. Been around to just 4 years, right? Now, the U.S. Open Cup this year presents an opportunity for Austin FC, like you said, to get their first piece of silverware, their meaningful piece of silverware, because they have won those in-state cups, Copa Tejas, but in reality, it's just kind of like for the fans, right? Now, the U.S. Open Cup, you're just games away from winning, right? Something actually meaningful for the trophy case, for the ownership, for the fans. And I'm not going to speak for all the players, right? But I can say that one guy in particular, Danny Pereira, he was on the pod at the beginning of the year when they were going through preseason, and he was mentioning how that he is very focused on the U.S. Open Cup. He wants the U.S. Open Cup because he, in his mind, he knows that it's just 5 or 6 games, right? around that margin, and you can win a real piece of silverware, right? Now, I'm sure that that same energy, that same, ambition, it fed off to some other players, and maybe other players in the locker room are all talking about them wanting the U.S. Open Cup. And in the fan base, there's a lot of talk, a lot of stuff going around saying, hey, this is our only opportunity at silverware. Being realistic, the way the team is playing, they really can't aim for the MLS Cup. They can aim for the playoffs and anything can happen after that, right, guys? But the US Open Cup, it seems as if they're in control of their own destiny and in the US Open Cup team, right? And the fans, they want the US Open Cup because for them, it's something that can be obtained. They see the fight in the players, and for Austin FC, you got El Paso out USL side, although they made you sweat 3-2, right? And then you had rivals Houston Dynamo, right? You took care of business with them. That was a little bit of a tricky match. But now Austin FC finds themselves in front of a very difficult San Jose side that in reality, a lot of Austin FC fans, they don't feel comfortable or confident playing San Jose ever because of the times that San Jose has made this team pay. San Jose is not an easy team for Austin FC, never has been. And I think a lot of fans still have that in their mind that, man, away at San Jose, it's not going to be a walk in the park, but everybody wants the U.S. Open Cup down here.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, and there's been a lot of emphasis as well on the San Jose side about whether we get home or away, and a bit of it is presumptuous. Some rumblings in Discord. We have plenty of time to speculate all things Quakes, but some fans are thinking, oh man, if Canada advanced in the Gold Cup, then Dane St. Clair would miss out on a potential U.S. Open Cup semifinals, or the quarterfinal, and it's like, let's slow your roll. We gotta get past Austin first. That's not guaranteed either. This is a definitely 50-50 game considering where the two teams lie in the MLS standings. But let's bring it back to the last game that Austin played in the U.S. Open Cup. It was a 3-1 win over Houston Dynamo at home. So facing off against one of the Copa Tejas teams in the U.S. Open Cup, the tensions were higher than normal for that derby game. What were some of the key points of that game that swung in Austin's favor?
Well, definitely being at home was something that swung the game into Austin FC's favor because, being in front of your fans at Q2, the players have mentioned it, the sporting director has mentioned it, and I know that the fan base knows what they do really helps these guys, being on their feet, chanting 90 minutes, it really does give them that 12-man boost, right? So definitely playing at home, even in regular MLS play, I mean, I think we all know that it does have some kind of, effect to it. But also, going back to that U.S. Open Cup match, the guys after that game, they were saying, and also Coach Nico, he was saying how, the fact that it's a direct elimination game, it kind of wakes them up a little bit. You know that if you lose, you go home. And you're at home in front of your fans, you just can't do that. And maybe the thing that worried a lot of the fans more than anything going into that Houston Open Cup match was that they had just beat you in regular season play, but at their house. It was at their home, right? So coming to Q2, things were very different. Maybe the guys were inspired to being in front of their own fans, and they want to bounce back in front of them. They don't want to have a bad performance and even be eliminated from a competition that Austin FC has already been very poor in. When we're thinking about history-wise, I mean, they've been out of this tournament by San Antonio FC. They've been knocked out of this tournament by Chicago Fire when Shaqiri was there and he was just walking around. They weren't even trying. So the history is not there for Austin FC. The players know it. I'm sure the coaching staff knows it. And just being in front of Q2, in front of their fans, and also Brandon Vasquez being able to start finding himself in form really did, help out Austin FC in that game.
Yep. And that game was definitely an eye-opener, seeing Austin go up 3-0, and then they held on 3-1 win. We'll circle back to the goal scores and the red cards that were dished out at the end, but we'll go to Devon and Abram for some of the key points of the Quakes' last game at home against Portland Timbers in that competition. There was an opportunity that Espinoza looked like he earned a penalty, and then somehow, some way, in a rare instance, Devon, there was a swarm of Timbers players, and whatever was said, maybe the referee decided, okay, maybe that wasn't a penalty, it was outside the box.
So I actually have some insider knowledge on this. It was so because of all the replays that was shown on TV, that helped the referee's decision to overturn that call from a penalty to a non-penalty. So because of that, yeah, we lost the penalty kick opportunity.
Okay, well, that was unintentionally our bad then, I guess, the Labina TV operator, but it is helpful for the audience to be able to see what's going on, and it does more help than harm, so we'll
Tell him to
allow
turn it off next time. Tell him we
it.
don't need to see what's going on. Just flip the switch real quick, just like LAFC did to us a few years ago. Don't
Turn the
worry
whole
about it.
stadium off. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and Abram, the opposite of the last Airbender, when the world needed Jack Skane most, he appeared, and since then, he vanished.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Bruce would be the Fire Nation in this scenario because he's been keeping him off of the squad. I think that Jack Gain is one of those players where we can rely on him to come into these games and Open Cup games and do a job. He's gonna work his butt off. But I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that like, oh, we need to see Jack Gain starting. He's not that player for us at this point. In where San Diego Earthquakes are, we have really good players. There's uh, freaking Hernan Lopez was struggling to get into the team for a while. So you're not going to look at Jack Gain like, oh, he's going to go in ahead of this guy. But yeah, we love Jack Gain here. I've had a lot of choice words to say about him, and then had to retract those choice words. But my current stance is that I love Jack Gain, and I hope that he gets a chance to show himself and show our friend Hernan here what he's made of. But no, I don't see that happening before the Open Cup game.
Yeah, Jack's game follows a long line of cult heroes within the San Jose Earthquakes, the likes of Alan Gordon and Marcos Urena and the like. Um, Hernan, who is a cult hero, someone that maybe doesn't get a lot of minutes but has come up with some important goals or memorable moments for Austin FC for you?
Well, this dude, he does get his minutes, right? But definitely a cult hero. And I think you guys might appreciate him because of the Cali Clásicos that you have down there. I'm gonna throw Guilherme Biru in there, man. This is a guy not afraid to go toe to toe with Vanny, Booch, and all the other players that are on that Galaxy bench. I mean, Guilherme Biru really has, earned his stripes down here, earned his respect, but because he's shown that he's down to fight, literally fight for the badge. So cult hero Guilherme Biru, 100%.
He may not be a CONCACAF nationality player, but I'm sure he was watching some of the Gold Cup quarterfinals and thinking, yes, 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 that's what I'm looking for with some of the brawls that were happening.
I agree. I agree, dude. And that guy has Brazilian flair. He's shown it at Q2. Sometimes he busts out some like joga bonito, and he does have important goals. There's been moments where he's popped up. He scored against LAFC at their stadium this year. Something that's not very easy to do at their stadium. They're actually pretty solid. I'm not gonna lie. Vito was able to tower and score a goal against Lloris, but if I'm being real, who's not scoring on that guy this season? It is what it is with him. Wish him all the best. Little dig at LAFC there, but no, Abidu, love the guy, cult hero. The fans love him here too, man.
Absolutely. So we'll talk a little bit more about some Austin players. So you got goals in that game from Brandon Vasquez, Osman Bukhari from the penalty spot, and Ilie Sanchez. And that would be the third goal that would give some much needed cushion when Ezequiel Ponce cut the deficit to 3-1. But also crucially, Brooklyn Reigns and Julio Cascante picked up red cards at the end of the game. So my question about Julio Cascante, was he able to serve a suspension in the next MLS match, or does he have to serve for the U.S. Open Cup?
No, I think he would have to serve it in the U.S. Open Cup, mate, and that's actually a really good question. Something that I had kind of almost forgot a little bit of, and he did pick up a red card in that game. It was a little bit silly, but I was actually right in front of it when it happened, and there was a little bit of contact, but it seemed like both of them were tugging, but the referee ultimately sided with the attacking player, and fans criticized him. They were like, Julio, why are you doing that? But in my mind, I'm like, hey, we don't know if he saved the potential 3-2 and it's game on in the final minutes of the match, something that you don't want. You risk getting that red card. So So yeah, that's something that is definitely going to be uh, something to think about for Coach Nico, because Julio Cascante just came back from injury for Austin FC. I'm not going to say that he's out of favor or anything, but he is the second option behind Svatok and Heinz. Like, so if anything happens with those two guys and you can't use Cascante, you're going to have to call up somebody from your second team.
Yeah, that's going to be very impactful there. I was looking at that with the lineup from the 2-0 loss to Seattle. So it was Stuver in goal, Desler, Svata, Kanzike, and Biro. So that back line there. And then it looked like a 4-4-2, at least according to the formation I saw. Obrian, Pereira, Sabovic, and Gallagher in midfield. Gallagher often fullback. Sometimes he could play a little further up. And then Vasquez and Wolf up top there, with Bukhari coming off as a sub at that time. So is it looking like you're going to have all your options there? I believe Uzuni's the only other potential absence because he's got a hamstring injury, probably out a few more weeks.
So yeah, correct on that. Coach Nico, he touched up on it post match after the Seattle game. He was labeled. Mirto was labeled as questionable, although I didn't think he was gonna see any minutes because I just didn't see Austin FC risking him. Maybe some 10 minutes at the end or whatnot, but I just didn't see it. But what Coach Nico said after the match was that they were gonna aim for him to come back against LAFC. You play LAFC right before San Jose, so I'm hoping that a guy like Mirto Suni, although he hasn't found his rhythm down here, he hasn't been producing the goals that a designated player needs to be doing for a team in MLS. I'm hoping that he gets a good little run of minutes against LAFC, maybe 10, 15, if you want 20, if you want to be ambitious, depending on what he wants, also what the coaching staff is comfortable with. But I need him to play against LA if you're thinking about giving him minutes against San Jose, because to me, although I take every MLS game serious, especially at home, I'm worried more about the U.S. Open Cup. I want that U.S. Open Cup, and I'd rather be 100% for the San Jose game than to be putting, all of our energy into the LAFC match. They have to be thinking that also.
That makes completely sense, that you need all hands on deck, and that's been the theme for the Earthquakes this season. They had a lot of players out, overlapping with injuries and mixed in with some international duty as well. But it seems like we're getting our starting 11 to crystallize a little bit, probably with the one exception of Bruno Wilson. But Devon, I think Bruno Wilson might have a tougher time regaining his starting position because Mooney, Rodriguez, and Romney have all played a lot of minutes together, and they're starting to gel as a center back trio.
I mean, how long has Bruno Wilson been out for? Like 3 months or something like that? I feel like we haven't even seen him on the field yet. That being said, though, you're kind of right. Our current back line is gelling much better than they were earlier in the season. The further we progress into the season with these guys, the less we kind of concede. The first game, the first couple of games, yeah, they've conceded maybe 2 goals, 3 goals, whatnot. Most recent performance versus FC Dallas, we conceded 2. Then we go into Cali Clasico, they've only conceded 1. These numbers are kind of dwindling down. As much as I've kind of criticized on our Discord server, kind of like the back 3, and how a lot of the FB ref stats kind of portray Romney and Muni kind of as like a low tier-ish center back pairing. The stats are improving. The stats are improving at full time, and it's going to be a really difficult time to see, Wilson find his way into the back line to be paired up with Rodriguez again.
The theme this season has been, even if we're not getting the clean sheets, they're not leaking as much goals as they were earlier this season. Is that true for you too, Abram?
Yeah, I mean, I think in very recent weeks, the return of Daniel has been really big on that. I think that, yeah, I agree with Devin 100% that I feel like the chemistry between the center backs has been going up. I think I was kind of disappointed. I didn't really understand why. Maybe somebody can like chime in with something I didn't see, but I thought Rodriguez was doing fine in that game. I didn't see any reason to pull him out for Max
Completely
Floriani.
agree, yeah.
Did he have an injury?
No, I'm just completely agreeing with you. Like,
Okay.
I didn't see anything wrong. I don't know what happened.
Thank you. Yeah, I
Only thing
agree.
can
And
think of minutes, because 2 games in the same midweek, and then we're gonna have a full week against the Red Bulls, and then we're gonna have to utilize a little bit of rotation in the U.S. Open Cup game, and then we fly to Minnesota.
Whatever it is, I felt that Floriani was. He's a great player. I really like Floriani. I think that he has a great upside, but he doesn't seem 100%. He's not there. He's not the finished product. And so you throw him into this match at halftime against this Galaxy attack who just had a pep talk. Like, you guys got to do better. And you could see that something happened in the tunnel because they were a different team when they came out for the second half. And Floriani wasn't. It wasn't his fault necessarily, but I felt that Rodriguez was doing a lot more. And so I don't necessarily like the idea of breaking up that back three. Daniel had to be, Superman in the second half, and eventually that caught up to him, and it wasn't possible to keep out that many really high XG chances because Galaxy was just finding those holes in between the center backs and getting chances in the box. You don't expect anyone to get a hand on that ball where Paintsel tried to take it around him. You never expect a keeper to get to that. And the fact that he did, he's already overperforming. And then Royce gets a chance 1v1 like very soon after. And then, we all know the quality Royce has. He ends up putting it away. A little bit lucky. But regardless, I think that there's probably reason for rotation, but it is very frustrating, and maybe we didn't give the Galaxy enough respect, their attack enough respect. Maybe Bruce was like, "Oh, we got this game. We're winning 1-0 halftime against a very bad team this year. Let's bring on a rookie, give him some time." Because like I said, Florian is good, but I think that was just a misplayed card on his behalf there. No, I think that the defense is getting better. I think that we have to still look at it for what it is and still be careful because teams will take advantage of your mistakes very quickly if we play the wrong card.
Something to kind of build off of that, though, especially for Hernan's point of view here as an Austin fan is, as much as I'm giving credit to our back line for kind of improving their chemistry and, conceding less goals, I do also kind of think Abram brings up a really important point here in that Daniel was our savior. I don't know how he didn't get man of the match versus Galaxy, but we could have lost 4 or 5-1 over that, over this last weekend because he made such crucial one-on-one saves. With their wingers, having such easy opportunities on breakaways, with how slow paced our back line is. Besides Daniel Muni, who's one of the fastest center backs in the league, he doesn't quite often show it. But that's something that worries me heading into this U.S. Open Cup match, and I'd kind of like to hear how some of those Austin FC players, especially Brendan Vasquez, can impact a slow. Or can make an impact against a slow back line such as the San Jose Earthquakes. They're, at least in terms of a Quakes fan's perspective, there's been a consistent years of danger and kind of nervousness every time we concede or we lose possession because of how many opportunities that other teams have when playing us. So I kind of want to shoot this question to Hernan. Like, what players do you think generate the best opportunity for you guys against a slow back line like the Earthquakes have?
The first two names that come to my mind, right off the bat, is, well, number one, obviously, the designated player on the right hand side, Osman Bukhari, the $7 million player that they got from Red Star Belgrade last year. He showed his speed against Nashville, where he was able to beat the goalie to the ball, and he just rounded him right. And that was one of the first displays of his speed. He also has great 1v1 ability. Even he's not afraid to take on two guys that are trying to lock him down, which Coach Nico has kind of talked about a lot. He's saying, hey, we're going to have a lot of teams that are going to try to 2v1 Buka. And when that happens, well, we're going to have one guy open, right? Because if it's 2v1, somebody got to be open out there. So Bukhari is somebody that, that back lines look out for. They probably have scouting reports on him going into matches. And Bukhari knows. He knows that he's fast. He knows that he's saucy with it. So he's going to be trying things against San Jose, I guarantee you. And then the other guy, if Mirtu Suni is not starting, which can be it's probably a real possibility that he doesn't start the game depending on how his hamstring is and also how he trains, if he's match fit, if he's ready. But if he's not, keep an eye out for the Irish quickster, John Gallagher, former ATL guy. He's been an all-star at left back. He's done time at right back. This is a guy that all around is just a journeyman. He wants his minutes, and he probably don't even care if it's at goalie. He's going to get his PT. And his natural position, as everybody knows, is left wing, right? That's his natural spot where he feels the most comfortable. And right now, he's with his buddy Brandon Vasquez, another guy that we have to also talk about. That chemistry between those two guys, the speed that John Gallagher possesses, combined with the speed that Bukhari, that Austin FC has on the right hand side. If it's indeed a really slow San Jose back line, I mean, this can be a dinner that guys like Bukhari and Gallagher can feast in, and then just send the deadly pass to the middle and find Brandon Vasquez crashing that.
Yeah, you mentioned Gallagher, and I like to bring his name up a lot when I'm talking to MLS people, because him and Corey Baird, I think, are like the sleeper builds in MLS. Like, you don't expect them to do much, but then they just hit you with something, and then you're just not ready for it.
No, definitely, man, definitely. And John Gallagher, he's another guy that we had him on the pod, and we gave him his flowers. We're like, hey, man, I just want to give credit to you because you haven't given up. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're a guy that has never given up. You've been put in through time and time again in difficult situations, sometimes not even in your natural position. And not to glaze the guy, but credit when it's due. You know what I'm saying? Credit when it's due to the lad. And one thing that I've always asked myself is like, I don't think the Irish team is at a level where they can look at a guy like John Gallagher and think, nah, we don't need him. You know what I'm saying? I mean, why not call John Gallagher up to the Irish national team? I mean, it seems like he's almost deserved it. And like I said, the Irish national team, I mean, they're not a powerhouse. You know what I mean? I mean, they probably don't have an abundance of players that are trying to get into that 11. And maybe they do. I don't know much about the Irish national team. But like I said, they just don't strike me as a powerhouse. And I think Gallagher could one day suit in.
Yeah, I think that it's not just Robbie Keane during his Galaxy days. I know Ireland has called up sporadically some MLS players. Same with Northern Ireland and same with Scotland and Wales at times. So, but maybe a league that they do call up a lot of players is the EFL Championship. So if they just slip him a little something that like, hey, he plays for Austin Athletic, that might trick them into giving him a call up. But yeah, I think that Gallagher in particular, he's a very versatile player and similar to a guy that I guess isn't getting as many minutes as he used to, Kolmanic. Like, you can rely on them to fill in holes and as well as give you quality minutes whenever they play.
Dude, definitely Kolmanic. He's a guy that has such a beautiful cross into the box off his left boot. I mean, there was a game against Atlanta United where he comes in late. I mean, credit to him for having that mentality of like, hey, you know what? I'm getting the garbage minutes, but I'm still getting minutes and I still got a job to do. I'm still getting paid for this club and I'm still going to put in 100% effort. And you could tell when he comes on, he's trying to earn his spot back because if we're being real, he lost it to Beetle, but Beetle has things that Kolmanic doesn't have, and Kolmanic has things that Beetle doesn't have, right? Kolmanic will forever have that service into the box. And the game against ATL this season, he comes on late into the game. Diego Rubio, another veteran MLS player, comes in late to the game as well. Kolmanic sends in a cross into the box. Diego Rubio is able to get ahead on it. I think there was a deflection by one ATL player or whatnot, but the ball went into the back of the net, and Austin FC was saved from embarrassment from losing against ATL at home, which ATL is not a good team this season. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's like if San Jose would have lost against the Galaxy 1-0. I mean, how would you guys have felt? We would have felt the same way. But credit to Kolmanic, he's a guy that still comes in and provides good service. And he might be a guy that San Jose sees in the starting 11 in the U.S. Open Cup because he's kind of like a cup player. He kind of fills in that role.
Absolutely.
When you said that, I was like, wait, when did we sign Kolmanic? Like, because you said you could see him starting, like, I I thought Paul Marie was next up, but no.
You
Yeah,
know who
no
we.
worries.
Oh, I was gonna say, you know who we won't see in the starting 11 against Austin FC, Hernan Lopez Munoz. It seems like, according to an official source just recently posted, he is on his way out on a loan deal back to Argentina. So that opens up a DP slot in the summer transfer window for the San Jose Earthquakes. Un- Unfortunately, I mean, maybe fortunately for our Hernan here on the podcast, he'll be the star of the show. Um, but for the San Jose Earthquakes, that is one less star to see the field again for the time being.
Hey, it opens up cap space to bring in Komanich, so
Maybe he
worth
knows.
it.
Maybe he
Yeah,
knows something we don't.
Hernan's telling me to stay away.
No, hey, in MLS, man, you don't know what the heck is gonna happen when that trade window starts. I mean, there's been when Fagundes left Austin to go to the Galaxy, it was a trade move. It happened out of nowhere. Fans cried real tears. You know, people had last minute goodbye party for him. I mean, it really just kind of shines a light on like the trade culture in American sports, and it's just it can be harsh. It can be harsh. We wouldn't want that to happen to RG Kolmanich, but it's up to the clubs. It's up to the clubs.
I want to ask you, Hernan, what are some players that pique your interest with the San Jose Earthquakes lineup from any games you've watched or highlights you've seen?
Oh man, I mean, right off the bat, when you guys were as soon as Devon mentioned that Hernan Lopez was on his way to go on a loan, I mean, I felt weight lifted off of my shoulders. I felt like something let me breathe. You know what I'm saying? I was like, yes, lifeline. Okay, cool. But it doesn't end there. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't end there. You know, there's still other guys to look out for. All star snub Christian Espinosa. What? On my fantasy team for the second year in a row. I know what he provides. I know what he can do on the pitch. I mean, this guy's eyes are always red in every picture that I see of him because of probably all the hard work that he does. You know what I'm saying? And I was shocked. I was really, really shocked when he wasn't on that list. But it is what it is. You can't change anything about it now. I can have my own opinion, and my opinion is that he was snubbed from the All Star. I'm definitely looking out for him. I think he makes other guys around him better. He has an insane quality. And, just got to keep an eye out for, guys like freaking Chicho Arango. How is Chicho?
He's good. He's back and
He's good?
he's doing good. Yeah, he started
Okay.
played I think the full 90 against LA Galaxy.
That's correct.
Okay, not good news for us, but it'll add for a good game. I will say that.
And you bring up Chicho. You bring up Espinosa as the guy that you're looking out for, and it is interesting because Chicho is someone who lit up this league, right? And he's known across the league as like this insane player, and he is very good. He's one of our best players, but he is second to Christian Espinosa, who has been here for 6 seasons, and nobody wants to talk about how good this guy is. He's one of the best players in the league, and I don't think people really want to admit that because they were like, oh, we have other Argentinian right wingers that we want to shove into this All Star team. Not that Messi doesn't deserve it, but Espinosa needs to be on the plane at least.
I think there's one other player that we need to acknowledge here, Abram, and he was on most of our top 10 lists except mine, or he's most of our top 5 lists except mine. And I'll let you take the reins here, but Bo LaRue.
Yeah, Bo LaRue is somebody who Devon put at number 7 in his top 10 Quakes players this season, which, to be fair, he is a rookie, and I could see the thinking of, like, I don't want to put this guy too high, I might get roasted. I put him at number 2, above Chicho, because that's how big this guy has been. I don't know, Hernan, if you've heard about Bo LaRue. It seems like every time we discuss him, it's like a secret that we all have that Bo LaRue is going to do something to the team. But no, I don't like. What is the perspective like? From the outside looking in, about to face us, is Bo LaRue even on your radar?
Honestly, I cannot say that the gentleman is. You know what I'm saying? I'd love to know a little bit more about him, but when I'm thinking about San Jose, I think about those names that I just mentioned. So I'm wondering if this is a guy that could end up hurting Austin FC. And San Jose, I feel like they're slept on because people just like to focus on the new shiny things, and they like to focus on like the NYCs, the Miamis, the ATLs, and probably what I'm maybe going to with the Christian topic, you know what I'm saying? Because maybe they're at San Jose, people look at them in a different light, and it's not fair to these players because San Jose is a historic MLS team. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like people just kind of have to look at it in a different way. San Jose gave Houston their first title because that's a whole other story there. I'm just throwing digs now, but if y'all could please tell me, why do I have to look out for this gentleman?
First and foremost, I'll let Ivan kind of take the reins here in a second. However, I just wanted to say that as the editor, as Ivan discussed this, I will post his FBref stats right in the dead center of the screen for the podcast, just for any of the Austin fans. If you guys want to listen, it's somewhere on either corner. I'm not sure where we're going to be placed. But Ivan, go ahead if you have any information on Bo LaRue that you'd like to explain to the Austin fan base.
If I were to give a class on San Jose Earthquakes, I teach at community colleges here in the Bay Area, so I'm kind of the de facto instructor of this podcast. My first day of class, I would just show the highlights against Inter Miami on Bo LaRue and Ian Hark's bangers there. So we do get goals from other players besides the Earthquakes version of Triple Espresso we got here of Espinoza, Martinez, and Arango. Heck, even their backups, Buda and Judd, have presented legitimate threats. Pellegrino, not so much. You will not see Pellegrino in too many highlights packages, except for the near misses. But with LaRue, he was signed to a first-team contract the day before the season started. And it was a shock to start that first game against Real Salt Lake. And from that point on, he has just essentially owned that role along with Ian Harkes, where we thought that they might face some competition from a veteran like Mark Anthony Kaye, or where would Hernan Lopez fit in this lineup. And they formed a really brilliant partnership in midfield together, aided with now Devon Jones coming in to supplement them from the right wing back position. LaRue's been a revelation with his technical ability and his ability to play both ways, essentially. And he's only 21 years old. He's similar in age and of perhaps growing reputation outside of San Jose to your midfielder Duber Sarvsky, which I think is going to be an X factor if he starts for Austin in this game. So, yeah, LaRue is probably one of the best kept secrets until maybe a couple weeks ago, because I have seen more and more of the weebs of the world, Andrew Weeby, I should say. Not sorry to anime fans if I threw you off there with that mispronunciation. That they're taking notice now, so we'll see what LaRue can do.
I think there was this article I think posted by our very own, our very own Favi. It was an article regarding Espinoza, actually, and it was like the best player you've never heard of. And Abram and I were like, yeah, I mean, we kind of agree, but we also don't agree. I think the best player you've never heard of is Bo LaRue, because, even asking you, Hernan, not many people know about him. They don't know any stats. They don't. Yeah, exactly. He's Googling it as we speak.
He's showing up the nice.
But it's a perfect depiction of, like, no one knows about him. So he's flying under the radar as it is. And I think, utilizing this podcast time to explain to other fans, including our own fans who might not even know Bo LaRue, that this guy is a key player for the team, whether, they see it or not. Abram, you like any additional words here?
Yeah, I know that you got to go soon, but, I'm going to leave you with this. You have to know about Bo LaRue is that don't tell the coach about Bo LaRue. If you didn't know about him, maybe hopefully the coach doesn't know about him. But no, he's a amazing player. We called him the combination of Messi and Zidane here. Obviously, exaggeration. Devon's the one who said Messi. I said Zidane. No, he at one point led the lead in interceptions, which is big. He's a great passer of the ball, both feet. He's more right-footed, obviously, but both feet. And then also just when he is around the half circle outside the box, pray. because he has a magical shot. I watched him last year play at MLS Next Pro level. He would just get the ball there and it always ended up in the top corner. A beautiful shot. And I'm hoping to see maybe one of those against you guys. Fingers crossed.
You said next pro, so he came from your second team.
Yeah, we drafted him in the MLS Next
Oh.
in the 2024 Super Draft, second round pick, 42nd overall. He didn't get a pro contract at that time. He got the contract directly with the town. Played there all season. I
Mm.
liked him. I was like, okay, this is a good player. I liked the homegrown that we had playing next to him. We had Cruz Medina and also Edwin Mendoza who are getting youth national team call ups. And this guy's like a third in that midfield, right? But then all of a sudden, I'm at I'm at the stadium, and this guy's starting on the home opener against Real Salt Lake. So it's just out of
Mm.
nowhere, huge step up, and he has been our best midfielder this season. Just crazy step up.
What a flex by Bruce, to be able to make that happen, to give the opportunity to a youngster. I'm actually going through like a little bit of a rage moment with the organization right now with Austin FC because I like to go to a lot of the MLS Next Pro games here in Austin. I try to go to as many as I can. I talk to some of these players. I talk to the coach after the game. I give importance to the MLS Next Pro because I see the beauty behind it. I see why it can be used for a team. Stuff like this. Bo LaRue, you guys are out here, giving him his props. In Austin, we don't have that. We don't have a guy that we've promoted, or not necessarily promoted, but being given a meaningful minutes from a MLS Next Pro level to the first team. And I've been very upset saying like, hey, when are we going to get that pipeline? When are we going to even get one or two guys to, leave their mark in the first team from the MLS Next Pro? And the closest thing was Urban Torres. He debuted last year in the last game of the season against Colorado Rapids with an interim manager, Davey Arnaud, a game that didn't mean anything. You weren't even going to fight for playoffs, but hey, you at least debuted him, right? Painting a good picture for next season. Urban Torres today, he's still with Austin FC too. No real opportunity to play first team minutes. They just get those I call them meaningless call-ups because you just take them on the trips and they just sit on that bench and you waste the 4 call-ups that MLS Next Pro gives you and you don't even give them a lick of playing time. I've been very critical of that. You can tell by the way that I'm talking about it. It grinds my gears. So credit to you guys. Bo LaRue, I can't wait to see this guy.
And I'm excited to see him against you guys as well. You guys had CJ Fotri, I believe, in one of the drafts, which is someone we were looking at. We didn't end up getting him. You guys got him. And I'm surprised because I thought he
Disappeared.
played well at the MLS Next Pro level. So I thought
Yep.
that he might be getting minutes with the first team, but I guess not. That's kind of disappointing.
Disappeared, mate, disappeared. And that's why I mean, you can hear the passion in my voice about it, why I get so upset about it, because a guy like CJ, I see a team like San Diego wanting him. I see a team like, anybody from California would probably like a guy like CJ. He has the speed, he has the build, he has the IQ. You know what I mean? Like, I really think we're not using this guy CJ Fabry right. And if we're not careful, he's gonna put in a request like, hey, I'm not getting my PT. I don't want to play in the MLS Next Pro. What am I gonna do with my own career? Guys like CJ, you got to take care of them because they're those gems. And I am one that thinks that we're not using him correctly at all. And I think that not that at least he's getting PT with Austin FC too, right? But to what point is that okay? These guys need to be tried. You need to test these guys to see if they're at the level or not. You know what I'm saying? It just grinds my gears, man.
It's in the
And then
name,
I am
MLS Next Pro. The next step seems to be missing.
And then I want to say that I am the resident MLS Next Pro guy in the podcast. I've been watching since they started. Obviously, Arfston was here at Quakes 2 at the time, and so we've had quite a few players come through and do well for themselves. But I am so glad to have somebody here who's also watching that league, because it kind of seems like there's like 5 people in total who know what's going on down there. But no, there's a lot of talent down there.
Just real quick, I want to throw this in there. Just today, breaking news. One of the best center backs in the second team system for Austin MC2, Nico Van Rij. I mean, this guy is almost like 6'5", 6'4". He is a tower. And I'm pretty tall myself, and he is taller than me when I've spoken to him after games at Palmer Field. And today, breaking news: Austin FC 2 and Nico Van Rij agreed to mutually part ways after the player expressed desire to return to Spain. Why is a quality center back? I mean, maybe it's family issues. I'm just going off of the press release. The desire to go back to Spain. How I'm interpreting it, Nico Van Rijn, he got called up to the first team on those MLS Next Pro call-ups, didn't play a single minute, right? He was an emergency break the glass signing. I understand it, right? But the player himself is maybe coming to realization, you know what? Maybe there's just nothing for me here. I'm gonna go try my luck again back where I came from, because he was with Granada and then he came to the MLS Next Pro season with Austin FC. Maybe he's realizing the writing on the wall. I'm not going to get any sort of opportunity here. These guys keep signing aging center backs. When is a youngster going to get a chance? I'm not getting it. I got to do what's best for me, and I'm going to bounce.
No,
That's how I read it.
I
That
remember
sounds like a
the
goalkeeper we once had.
yeah. We don't have time, unfortunately, to talk about that, but that's
Yeah.
the kind of like the rhetoric about this league. It's kind of a waste. That I remember that Spanish center back. I remember people being like, "This is the guy. We're gonna see him in the league. He's gonna be a big deal." Austin FC apparently put an end to that, and that makes me really sad.
That's a shame. Real quick, because I know you gotta go. The last
For
thing
sure,
we,
for
we
sure.
gotta leave you with
Yeah.
is Austin FC wins this U.S. Open Cup quarterfinal. If what happens, what is Austin FC's win condition to beat San Jose?
They have, sorry, they have to get Brandon Vasquez in a position to score. Because if Brandon Vasquez has to get involved with the build up all the way in the midfield and on defense, it's going to be very difficult to put the ball to the back of the net. Because last game against Seattle, there was times where BV was the one making crosses. Mate, you're the one that needs to be receiving the crosses. You're the one that needs to be there ready to head it in, chest it down, put the ball to the back of the net with your left, right foot. It doesn't matter. But if Brandon Vasquez has to do all this to get involved with the build-up, it's gonna be a problem. They have to get things going on offense, and more importantly than that, because in the Open Cup, you can go to PKs or whatnot, right? You need to be back to your solid defensive form, because against Seattle, that team was sliced up like Swiss cheese. And credit to Seattle, because you can say that their time at the Club World Cup really helped them. Playing against Botafogo, playing against PSG, playing against Atletico, it really helped them train, right? It's like if you're fighting a greater warrior. You're learning things off of this fight, right? And then you play Austin FC, who is coming back from break. They came back from a little vacation and whatnot, and the team was building momentum. They were building rhythm. Then this break completely derails everything. Seattle is in form. They were in a good moment. You thought they were going to be tired. They were anything but tired. They made you look tired after a break, which is a problem, Austin FC. But they have to be solid on defense, because at least you can hang your hat on Austin FC's defensive capabilities, and you can say, hey, at least the defense was good this game. At least the defense was able to grind out some kind of result, and Stuver as well, right? And then the goals come, they help you out or whatnot. But if they can't even get the defense right, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult. But number one, get your defense in order and then go from there. You got guys they're more than capable of putting the ball into the back of the net. I need the defense to get back to the level where they once were.
There we go. And that's something that we'll be keeping an eye on ahead of this U.S. Open Cup game. We'll keep an eye on your game on Saturday against LAFC. We'll see what both coaches are cooking and what rotations might be in store ahead of that game. That'll
Beat
be
LA.
7:30 p.m. Pacific for us. That'll be 9:30 p.m. Central for you. Hopefully, it won't be too past your bedtime right now.
Dude, no, yeah, the way that Austin FC's been playing, I need a coffee, maybe two. So those late games, those 9 p.m. games, they're tough. I'm an
Is
unk.
We Are
I'm an unk now,
Austin
man.
TV on Blue Sky as well as Twitter?
Yeah, yeah, we're on Blue Sky, because a lot of the fans, kind of migrated to Blue Sky. So we just kind of try to keep them up to date or whatnot. There's a lot of social media platforms, but we do our best to be everywhere.
All right, sweet. And what kind of content are you doing? Feel free to plug anything on your way out. Thank you for your time.
No, yeah, totally. Thank you guys for, having me on here. I want to send a shout out again to my G's at Tectonic Takes. One of the first pages that when we came onto the scene, you guys were, extended an olive branch to us and said, hey, welcome aboard. Welcome to this crazy train of content creation that is this MLS. And also shout out to Fabi. Fabi's a person that, not only has helped a lot of people they've helped us in our journey, but he's also helped a lot of people out there as well. I think maybe he doesn't know it, but he's just like a fan of just positive energy. And the fact that you guys work with him, it speaks a lot about you guys also, because you guys are a team, and good things rub off of one another. And I'm sure if I like Fabi, I've met him in person, I'm sure that I would also like you guys like a bunch. I had a great time here today. And just one thing I will say is that if you want to keep up with All Star, it is coming to Austin, Texas. We're gonna be working overtime trying to cover that event. Upload as much as we can. So right now, that's like my main focus. I really want All Star to go really, really, really good, and I'm just excited for it. If we applied for media, if we don't get in as media. I have my tickets already that I got back in March. Those are skyrocketing. So I'm excited to see a good game. And if I go in as media, I'm excited to work a solid shift.
Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully Favi will be at that game because he seems to be everywhere when it comes to MLS these days. So that'll be a nice
Yeah,
little Tectonic Takes. We are Austin TV crossover. Thank you so
of
much for your
course.
time, Hernan. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
All right, you just heard from Hernan of We Are Austin TV. We really appreciate his time with us. We didn't want to leave you without addressing the double game week that the Quakes just had and looking ahead to the other MLS games that are coming up as well. So we got 4 points out of a possible six for the season series against LA Galaxy, as well as 4 points out of a possible six from this past week, including the win against FC Dallas. So overall, I would say successful game week, all things considered, Devon.
I mean, yeah, we walk away, and I was kind of talking about this with a buddy after the game. But walking away from the game week with 4 points out of six, only losing 2 points, is not that bad of a situation, especially when one of those games was away, and we won 4-2 in that game. There's not too much negativity to look back on, albeit Cali Clasico, you want to win those games. You kind of walk away with mud over you, whatever. Um, and then yeah, watching like the fireworks show, the drone show, I guess. Yeah, it's a bitter taste in your mouth when watching the drone show after a draw or loss with 40,000 plus in the stadium. But again, 4 points out of six. It's hard to say that it's a bad week. For the Earthquakes, at least in our history, that's a very good week. We're not used to seeing these 4 out of 6 with one away game, So we'll take the pluses that we can.
That's typically a formula for success in Major League Soccer. It's keeping us in a strong playoff position. Right now, I'm thinking the goal for the season has to be not just playoffs, but top seven to guarantee a home playoff game for the first time in PayPal Park history with the otherwise stupid best of three formats. It's literally the only positive to that format. But, Abram, how are you feeling about the week at large?
Yeah, I mean, at one point on Wednesday, we were losing 1-0 at Dallas, and if you would have told me that we would win that game 4-2 and then tied, I would have taken that. Uh, Obviously, I think that we, as Quakes fans, have to consider that that game against Galaxy really sucked. To not come away with all 3 points, we deserved. We and actually no, we didn't deserve it. We didn't deserve to come away with 3 points, which is why that sucks because we gave up in that game. But as a guy watching soccer, looking at a league table, is a very good week. Especially when you're coming off the back of the season we had last season. We just want to get through. I mean, we're talking about these next two games. We had two episodes in a row where we were looking ahead at these two games, and you had me a little bit worried. You're talking about the game in hand. We were able to. Dallas could have jumped us into the table, but no, we're in fifth right now. That's not bad at all. I'm pretty happy with how that went. It's just really unfortunate that we ended up, um, you know, losing out on a full 3 points against our biggest rivals on such a big occasion?
I think we're currently in sixth right now, but I want to add some additional context. I would consider us in seventh because LAFC has 4 games in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. It's essentially seventh. It's a fake sixth place. And if it was another team and they had a brutal schedule, we could maybe foresee a possibility of, oh, they'll lose all those games in hand. But it's freaking LAFC. Like, they're like Seattle. They're battle tested from a difficult Club World Cup group, although they should have beat Esperance, but it was hilarious that they didn't. um, so yeah, we're assuming LAFC is going to pass us up at some point, which is why I'm looking at this New York Red Bulls game as this is your opportunity. Play fearless, because worst case scenario, you lose to an Eastern Conference team. After this, all our remaining MLS games are against Western Conference teams, so it's a 6-point swing either way. And I'm terrified of the Minnesota away game for that reason. It's most likely going to be a banana peel, not necessarily that Minnesota are like a game that we're looking past them. No, it's essentially we suck playing against Minnesota home or away, so we're kind of expecting that's going to be a difficult time. So I'm hoping if they play fearless, if they can put together a 90-minute stretch like the first 45 against LA Galaxy or the last 45 against Dallas, then we can win at home against New York Red Bulls, who are a solid team, but they're not world beaters either.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at New York Red Bulls on the table. Kind of a similar position to us. We are 2 points below them. But no, definitely not a team where I look at them and say, like, oh, no, that's 100%, a loss. I think that we have a pretty good chance to get them all things considered.
Yeah, and also, something that Bruce kind of alluded to a couple weeks ago when we were playing in U.S. Open Cup, he reiterated that he wants to go all in for U.S. Open Cup. These games, Austin FC, if we go through, potentially Chicago Fire, whoever else we face after this, or just Austin in general, he wants to make this a 100% push to win this championship or to win this cup, because to the Earthquakes fans, it's a very important tournament. With other teams like, kind of, for example, LAFC, Seattle Sounders, they have a quality, they have the caliber to push themselves for an MLS Cup title. We don't necessarily have that, and historically, we haven't had that. This is something that Earthquakes fans have looked forward to because it's something that we're actually competitive in. And I'm glad to see that one of our coaches finally realizes that. That said, though, this weekend versus New York Red Bulls, I can imagine us definitely kind of not pulling the plug, but, sending most of our secondary guys out, giving them MLS experience, minutes, and then, placing guys like Espinoza, Chicho, maybe late second half substitutions away. However, I definitely see these guys, our top players, starting and playing full 90 versus Austin.
So scenario A, as you allude to, Devon, could be we put a New England-esque lineup at home against New York Red Bulls, and then with the game on Tuesday against Austin, you can still have a slightly longer rest period than the usual midweek turnaround, where you can start your strongest lineup against Austin and at Minnesota. So that's my first theory. But in the event that we do some degree of rotation against Austin, I need to gauge what the acceptable level of slight rotation would be. Would you be okay with, and I'll ask you both this, if two of the three of Romney, Rodriguez, and Mooney start, and potentially Floriani is the player that comes in?
I'll let Abram kind of take the wheel here, but I'll make a short statement. With the lack of center back depth we have, I can see us just using the center backs we currently have, and maybe the exception of Floriani with Rodriguez, because Bruce just for some reason doesn't like Rodriguez and doesn't like asking about Rodriguez.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at these games. I'm not sure I agree. I think that Bruce has shown a propensity to play Reed Roberts when it's possible. He likes Reed Roberts. He likes Floriani. I don't think that he sees those guys as more as much of a step down as we do. I think we look at them with more critical eyes than Bruce. Bruce sees what they could be, in my opinion, and keeps giving them good amount of chances. It's very possible we see them both or one of them start against Austin. I think that might be where he chooses to use that because, like I said, I don't think he sees that as like, oh, we're using our second team today. I think he's like, okay, we need to rotate a little bit because of the busy week. I'm gonna put in Max Floriani because he's a starter caliber player. I think that he sees Max Floriani as a starter caliber player. We've seen him start before the season, so I don't
You
think
can
he
have a
sees it.
starting caliber player that doesn't start that many games. I think Floriani can be that, but he's inconsistent.
Right. So yeah, I think that it's hard to say what we have like that's five center backs that could play in three spots, right? So it's a little bit difficult to predict where we're gonna see each player. But yeah, I would hope that we would try and bring out the strongest option. We don't have a game on Wednesday, so it's not like we're like not like last month where it's just like every 3 days we have a game. I think that it's a good amount of rest between the Galaxy game and the New York game, and then that does benefit us coming into the Tuesday game. Not having a Wednesday game, that's a lot of games in a short period of time. No, I'm speaking out of my ass right now. I really, like I said, I don't like saying this. It could go either way because it's like, what is that? But no, I definitely could see Reed Roberts making an appearance in one of these two games.
As much as you think you're speaking out of your ass, you're making good points. And another point that I'd like to make though too is Bruno Wilson is no longer on our injury. Well, he might no longer be on our injury
Yeah,
report.
I don't know where
He could just reemerge on the injury report again, and us fans are like, yeah, here we go.
Exactly.
But at the moment, he's training with the first team, and there is a good chance potentially that we may see him this weekend versus New York Red Bulls as a late substitution. To remove some of the acid or I'm see now I'm speaking out of my ass. Just to relieve some of our current starters' duties midweek or this weekend.
I'll bring this to a close a little bit, and I'll lump the front seven together. Would you be okay with Costa and one of Arango or Martinez making way for, say, Kikanovic on the right, Jones on the left for our wingbacks, and either Judd or Buddha coming?
If anyone can come on the field in the location where Costa is, I will be happy because he is, for me, was the biggest disappointment in the game against Galaxy. Costa is a player who does stuff good sometimes, but that was a really poor performance, and I do think that we need to see a reaction to that from Bruce, who seems to think he's fine, and I do think I argue with Saz on this, whenever I can. I think that Costa does things. He just looks terrible doing it. He doesn't look like he has any technique, but he does make things happen just because he does. I don't know. I can't explain it. He does make assists. He does, make last-ditch efforts and head the ball out of the box. He does some good things that are useful, but when he's in these moods where he's just, like, not focused, not all the way there, he does make just so many mistakes that are 100% avoidable. So when you say bring on Benji on the right and have Jawan on the left, that seems like a great idea. I kind of wish that we did that against Galaxy because Costa was just not up for it that day.
Yeah, also there's a huge debate going on in our Discord server, which is the difference between formations of the 3-5-2 and 3-4-3. And I would kind of like to hear Ivan's thoughts on this. Like, what would be, if you were the coach right now for the San Jose Earthquakes, with this current team, what would your preference be in formation
Ivan,
moving forward?
Like I say, because we've spoken about this before, the 3-5-2 has like a right side up triangle in the middle. So it does have a number 10. So you might consider it a 3-4-1-2, right, with two strikers above the cam. Just to clarify, it's not like a straight line across.
Yeah, great. Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, that's an important clarification because yeah, it could go either way without that. So the big thing is if we do go to a 3-4-1-2, then Espinoza would have to be the one to play a 10 if you want to keep all three of Espinoza, Arango, Martinez together. So that's the thing. I feel like having those three together in their best positions possible, which I think the 3-4-3 allows, is better than whatever other weaknesses there might be. And I think for Costa, he's been a prime beneficiary of Ricketts being injured too, and that essentially won him that job. I think that Ricketts potentially could have taken that job from him. Who knows? Ricketts is still vastly inexperienced, but I think that one way or another, more competition for Costa is coming at the next opportunity to bolster the roster. We'll see if that happens in the summer, but definitely in the off season. But I still have a lot of confidence in this team. I feel like this is a big opportunity for the San Jose Earthquakes, their first Cup quarterfinal in 5 years, and that feels like a stretch because MLS is back. It doesn't really count for anyone except for Portland Timbers because they happen to win it. But the fact that we're in a quarterfinal of any kind is really exciting, and I look forward to watching that game with you both.
For sure. I After the game against Galaxy in the press conference, we had a difficult time. I don't know what Quick Step Center was able to cover. I didn't get to watch the stream, but the experience we had, Ivan and I, was we were sitting there trying to talk to Bruce, and Enter Sandman was playing over it, and we just couldn't hear him. I don't think he could hear us. I didn't end up getting a question because the PR guy was kind of just like, "All right, we got to get through this. We got to one or two, three questions." I didn't hear the answers. I don't know what he said, but what I would have liked to ask him was what he sees in Benji Kakanovich and what where he is in the squad, because we didn't have him for a lot of the season. So having him back is very good in my opinion, and it could, like you said, Ivan, spell the start of the end for Costa if he continues a bad run of form and Benji, starts to pick up or whatever it is. We have a few fullbacks on the team. I think Paul Marie would have even done a better job. I say that like Paul Marie is not a good player; he's a great player, but I think that he would have done a better job in Costa in this particular match. But no, I'm curious about Bruce's perspective on where Benji is right now in his plans, because we do have a lot of depth in those positions. We just have to get the right combination.
I'm curious about that as well. I think he sees Kikanovic as the next available fullback on the bench ahead of Lima and Marie, and that could also be a situation that could oust Costa potentially. But for now, he seems like his starting role is written in Sharpie, and it doesn't seem entirely justified. I'm starting to see more what other people are seeing. I feel like maybe I've been blind to his worst moments previously, but I've seen him be a contributor. I've seen what he's trying to do, but in particular this Galaxy game, his offense felt like a black hole, and that wasn't even the worst half of his game in that particular instance. Any closing thoughts for either of you two before we start calling it a night for this recording session?
Kind of assessing the Costa situation. For some reason, my little icon isn't showing up blue. Can you guys hear me?
You're good.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure that there's no issues. I want to say, first and foremost, I kind of think we may sign someone similar to where Costa plays, if not in Costa's position, this summer, specifically this summer. Second, building off of that, expect a active transfer window. I don't know exactly where we will sign players. I know Hernan is leaving. We'll most likely sign a designated player somewhere on the field. There's 8 other positions that can be signed to that aren't designated players. I genuinely think one of the first players that we would sign is somewhere in Costa's wheelhouse.
I think
Yeah, I
mine
mean,
too. Go ahead, Abram.
I was just gonna say that I think it was Palmieri Aficionado who said that he would like a left winger because I think that a DP left winger at least. I think that yeah, we might make a replacement for Costa at some point, and that would be great. But we have a DP slot for 18 months. Just it's suspended in midair. We can have someone in between the time where Hernan is gone, and yeah, I think that 3-4-3 isn't a bad option. We are getting more points per game in that formation, and I would prefer the 3-5-2. I gotta be honest. I like that formation more, but it we have to look at what Bruce wants and what he's gonna do. And I kind of think that he could get a another DP number 10. I think that could be something we see, and then we wouldn't even have to worry about the left wing. The difference between left wing and left wing back. The two different positions in this team. But no, I think that Bruce is someone who's been very, very, I want to say violent, but that's not the word, very aggressive in the transfer window. And giving him a DP slot, taking off, I don't know the wage split that we have with Argentinos Juniors. If they took the whole wages off, then that's more money for us to use and play around with. And Bruce is gonna use everything available to him, and I have full confidence in that. And like Devon said, he respecting a busy window. I don't doubt that with what we've seen from Bruce so far. Bring in freaking Chicho Arango, dude. Like you know. So yeah, I think that it's gonna be interesting. We shouldn't write off the season because Hernan is gone. A big player has gone off our books. We should see this as an opportunity for another boost, yet another boost. And I think that we will probably end up coming out of this seeing things positively.
I think, and maybe Ivan can say something here or counter my opinion, but I think adding a left winger in a 3-4-3 currently, I don't know how the contract structures are set up in place specifically for Chicho and Yosef and other attackers that we have. If those players see another DP left winger come in or attacker, that's specifically minutes diminishing for them on the field. And how happy would they be if they are among the best MLS strikers this league has to offer? If we see a left wing come in, that's gonna create rift within the team. I just don't see it happening.
So you're seeing like Chicho being the starting left winger, and then him losing a spot potentially, or because neither of them naturally play. I know Chicho played there against Galaxy, so that there's that to consider. But like I said, that's not his natural position. So that's where I'm thinking of like if I'm having my best 11 out there, Chicho's a striker for sure, and then Espinosa's on the right wing. And then on the left wing, you have Pellegrino, and I don't want Joseph on left shoehorned into the left wing, and so that's where I'm coming from. And I just want to make that clear. I'm not like,
Yeah.
okay, Chicho out of here, Judd,
Well,
you're my striker.
that's
Chicho,
where
go away.
that's where I agree with you in the 3-5-2 is we have two of the best strikers in the league history anyway. And reverting to a 3-4-3, I think this 3-4-3 seems to be in place due to the fact that we don't have like a strong 10. And this is kind of just us making up for it, and Bruce's tactics are just insane no matter what. But yeah, I'm kind of with you, Abram. I think that we'll switch to a 3-5-2, and I think we're going to look for a 10 this summer window. But I also kind of want Ivan's thoughts on that too.
I think that feels more realistic than we keep the same formation and we bring in a left winger. Personally, that's just what I would envision. But I think that whatever moves are made so far, the moves that have been made by Bruce Arena and company this year have been impactful. So we'll wait and see. We've gotten this far without Hernan Lopez for much of the season, so I'm not writing the season off whatsoever, and I don't think any Quakes fans should. And I thank you both for your time today. If you want more of my thoughts on the LA Galaxy game in particular, I'll link the article to this video description. And we look forward to getting you the next episode after the U.S. Open Cup game against Austin. So whether we record later in the week next week or we pick it back up in about 2 weeks, we will let you know on our social media. Follow us on Blue Sky and Twitter. And until then, go Quakes.
Go Quakes.